Welcome to Hot Off the Press, the show about new releases and the people that bring them to us. Before we get started, let's go around the room and have everyone introduce themselves. Go ahead and start with you, John.
Hi, I'm John Hartness, and this is all of my quarantine hair. I am the founder and publisher of Falstaff Books, an independent press based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I write a few things, including for tonight. The focus will be the Bubba the Monster Hunter comedy horror series of short stories and novellas. And then there's a few other things. Follow me on social media. It's all just my name. You can figure it out. You're smart people.
All right, perfect. Marion.
My name's Marion Deeds, and I'm a proud and grateful Falstaff author. And the book I'm going to be talking about tonight is Copper Road, which is the second book in a trilogy. This is my pandemic hair. I got one haircut in the brief interval when things were open, and I'm hopefully going to get another haircut later this week. But this has probably been the most stressful part of the quarantine, is dealing with the hair. For me, we're in pretty good shape, I'm happy to say. So
All right, perfect. Teresa.
Hi, I'm Teresa Glover. I'm the author of the Kaitlin Kelly Monster Hunter series with Falstaff Books. And the one that I'll be talking about tonight is Blood Moon over Bourbon Street. And I'm also an editor at Falstaff Books, and I'm not showing you my quarantine hair because I'm prioritizing the massage first.
All right. And finally, Sarah.
I'm Sarah Madsen. I am also an author with Falstaff Press. My first book with them came out February 11th. It's called Weaver's Folly. It's a cyber-punky urban fantasy set in near future Atlanta. I also do game writing for tabletop role-playing games in all of my copious spare time. So yeah, that's me.
All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and jump into the new release or recent release. I'll start with you, Marion. Tell us a little bit about it and the idea for the story or the series.
Okay, it follows almost immediately on the heels of Aluminum Leaves, which was the first book, which is a Broken Cities novella. And we meet Aaron Dos Manos, who's from our world and is one of 4 families who have pledged to protect a series of kind of weird artifacts that came from a different dimension. But now somebody is coming after the artifacts, and Aaron has escaped and leaped into an alternate world through her portal and meets Trevian Langtree, who is a copper hunter, which is a term for a person in that world who can magically sense copper. Trevian is the son of the richest man in his hometown. He ran away from home. He hates his father's business. He was engaged to a beautiful and socially prominent woman, and he broke the engagement in a really bad dramatic way. And he enjoys prospecting for the precious metals that are sensitive to magic, like gold, copper, and aluminum are the big 3. And Aaron and Trevian quickly uncover a invasion plot controlled by a hive mind that uses mind-controlling parasites. And they manage to escape, and they free some people who were captured by the parasites, and they defeat the human co-conspirator, but he gets away. And now they know they have to take Aaron's artifact, which is a magical book, and find somebody who can help them decode it, because they must find the portal that the parasites are coming through and stop them. And meanwhile, and that's where Aluminum Leaves ends. In Copper Road, Aaron and Trevian are on their way they're going to find the portal somehow. It's somewhere on their continent, and they're going to close it. Meanwhile, back in Trevian's hometown, his father has had a very suspicious accident followed by a stroke, and he's incapacitated. And Trevian's younger sister is trying to run the business, and soon finds out that there are outsiders who have a great interest in her business and are going to take it away from her unless she can come up with a way to stop them. And she receives a draft plan, and all it needs is the help of Ilsanja, who is the beautiful and socially prominent woman that her brother kicked to the curb. And she has to persuade Ilsanja to help her. Ilsanja doesn't really have any reason to. And it's further complicated for Aideen because she's secretly been in love with Ilsanja since they were kids. So It's got bandits, it's got magic, it's got 2 sets of lovers who are not good at declaring themselves. It's got fight scenes, it's got mind controlling parasites, and it's got chocolate.
So where did the idea for the story come from?
This story, I had a character who hung around. He was kind of like one of those actors. It's Trevian. I had the character of Trevian, and I had an idea for a story, and it never really got off the ground. But he was like one of those actors that you see on comedies, like calling his agent every day, like, "You got anything for me?" And he wouldn't really leave. And Jane Gates, who used to work for Falstaff and worked with John, I worked with her on Strange California. And she approached me about doing a novella for the Broken Cities line. And it just felt like, oh wait a minute, maybe there's a story for Trevian here, and maybe he meets somebody who is completely different from him, who is literally from a different world, and what will he have to do? And so that was the first one, and that was, I think, about 40,000 words. And of course, what always happens is, oh, but there's so much more here I want to talk about, and so much more I want to do, and I'm really kind of interested in this world that is building back from an unknown cataclysm that basically destroyed everything 300 years ago, and they don't really know what it is. And I'm interested in kind of the beginning of a middle class, and the beginnings. They're fairly highly technological, but most of their technology is magic. And so I was interested in what are the roots of how technology advances through a society, and what kind of changes does that make. And I also wanted some action adventure. And so that's where it came from.
Great, perfect. Teresa, how about your Kaitlin Kelly story?
So the Kaitlin Kelly book that it has just come out fairly recently, because I haven't been able to be available for one. Blood Moon Over Bourbon Street is the collection of the 3 novellas that are currently out. So it's all the Kaitlin Kelly stories that are currently published. There is more coming, in one book, and you can get it paperback, hardcover, ebook, whatever you prefer. And this is just taking Kaitlin from her initial, all I want to do is go to New Orleans for a vacation, through, oh crap, the whole world is falling apart. And that's my favorite part about her, is the whole world falling apart.
Sounds
Tell them
cool.
about the title.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. The title, of course, there's that nod to the moon over Bourbon Street. However, because both John and I are big magic nerds, we decided that it was going to be Blood Moon over Bourbon Street, because Blood Moon is a Magic the Gathering card that's kind of a pain in the butt to deal with.
Horrible thing.
But again, that's what makes it so delightful.
Perfect. Sarah,
Terrible
how
human being.
about yourself, Sarah?
Well, Weaver's Folly is the first book in the Shadow Spinner Chronicles. It follows Alyssa, who is the main character. She's an elf. And she owns an antique shop in Atlanta, but moonlights as a thief, as a cat burglar. And she takes a job, and the job goes wrong and gets stolen out from underneath her by another thief, another runner. And she's real mad about it. And then he comes back to her, sort of the kind of the heist of the lifetime, one-time opportunity. And well, we all know how well those things tend to go. So it has a bit of magic, and it has some monsters and some high tech, a little bit Shadowrun vibe going on. Yeah.
And motorcycles.
And motorcycles and leather and plasma rifles. Yeah, it's fun.
And what made you want to write this?
Well, honestly, so I conceived the idea of Alyssa, the main character, when I was supposed to actually play in a Shadowrun game. And I had created this character and, worked up a whole background and had this great idea. And then the game collapsed and we didn't actually get to play. And I was like, that's not going to work. So she had to come out somewhere. And so she came out in this book. So, yeah.
All right. perfect. John.
So, Houses of the Holy is the newest Bubba the Monster Hunter release. It is the third novella of season 5 of Bubba the Monster Hunter. We've put out 4 collections. The first 2 are short story collections, each featuring 10 short stories and 1 novella. And then season 3 and 4 are collections of 4 novellas. Season 5 is another collection of 4 novellas, but Houses of the Holy kicks off the much requested Quincy Harker Demon Hunter, Bubba the Monster Hunter crossover.
Crossover.
I'm a comic book nerd. So that's where this whole Bubba the Monster Hunter, Quincy Harker expanded universe came from, because I'm a comic book nerd, and the X-Men and Spider-Man universes have been a thing forever. Well, if you're going to do comic books, you got to do a crossover. And fans have been asking, when is Bubba going to meet Quincy Harker? And I was like, they're going to hate each other, y'all. They're not going to like one another. And they're like, yeah, that's what's fun. I was like, all right, fine. If y'all buy it, I'll write it. So it's going to be Bubba 5.3, which is Houses of the Holy, Bubba 5.4, which I've started on now, and it's called Blaze of Glory. And then the whole thing started with Conspiracy Theory, which is the Quincy Harker book that released last year, and it will wrap with The Reckoning, which is Quincy Harker number 8, that will come out mid-year this year. So once again, I have written myself into a multi-year, multi-book crossover event after saying that since Harker seasons 3 and 4 were an 8-book, 2-year arc, I swore I'd never do that again. So I took 2 books off, and then I did it again.
And I'm going to claim credit for at least giving you the impetus to push those 2 together, because Kaitlin is kind of like that middle ground tonally between that snarky, sarcastic Quincy
No,
Harker
Caitlin's a
and
Harker
the
book.
Well, you know, she
Caitlin's
does try
a
to
Harker
be slapstick.
book, but she just uses some of the Bubbaverse milieu.
But that's why we love her.
Yeah, that's going to be why. So this book is pretty much pure fan service. My fans asked for a crossover, so I wrote one.
Perfect. So, Teresa, I'm going to ask you some questions about your writing process. A little bit, how much do you typically spend writing a day? What's your normal, if we can have normal, routine at the moment? And since you're also doing other things for Falstaff, how much of that split?
Well, I used to have a writing process, and then 2019 happened. And so I had started cobbling together a new writing process, and then 2020 happened. So I'm just kind of starting to actually get into like a consistently productive manner of speaking, work ethic at this point. I don't write enough every day, but I do write some every day. Today was several pages of notes in between some of the day job stuff that I was working on, but they're really good notes. And I basically just have to kind of fill in the blanks between them. And I've got like 2 chapters. So one of the things that I have learned over the past couple of chaotic years is that I kind of have to treat the urge to write and the idea to write and something that's coming up as a crying baby. If it's crying for my attention, it needs my attention. I need to stop and give it my attention. And usually once I'm able to sit and do that, then I have no problem actually producing. I'm working on getting to a point where I actually have that dedicated time again, because that's the easiest way to do it. You just show up at your desk every day, you keep hitting the keyboard until words come out. I had that once upon a time. I haven't had it for a while. So, you know, I'm rebuilding that. As far as the other things that I do, just in case anybody doesn't notice or doesn't know, I am an editor with Falstaff Books. There are several books that I do developmental edits on for other authors. So I teach them or point out more the case ways of making their story stronger. And I also this month am agitating the slush. And slush is the influx of unsolicited manuscripts that we get when we have an open call for submissions. We've gotten, I think it was about 200 so far for this month, John?
We're pushing 200 in the 3 weeks that we've been open for submissions, which reminds me why we only are open for submissions 1 month out of every 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
And I expect there to be another flood coming in the next few days as we come up on the last 5 days of February.
Yeah.
We had a rush at the beginning of the month and then a little dip, and then it's been ramping up the last few days, and I expect it to be ridiculous the next few days.
And for those who are submitting to any press anywhere, please consider that the submission guidelines are there for a reason, even though that reason may not be clear to you. Consider it a job interview. Follow the instructions, because those are the easiest ones for me to clear out of the slush. If you don't follow instructions, you don't get read. As far as the balance of work right now, it's mostly editing and agitating slush, and then writing is coming behind it. But usually they're fairly balanced between editing and writing.
All right, perfect. Sarah, I'm sure yours is a little less chaotic, maybe?
Yeah, well, sort of. So I have a full-time day job, so that definitely cuts down on my available, writing time. And since, sort of all of this has been happening, it's definitely thrown off my typical routine between, working from home when I used to go to an office. So I'm definitely not writing every day. I wish that I was. Sometimes when I try to force myself to write every day, it's not anything good that I produce, So, and some days I will sit at my computer for 2 hours and get 50 words down. And some days I'll sit at my computer for 20 minutes and write 1,000 words. So yeah, I wish it was a little more consistent. That would be great. But right now it's not. It's crazy. So usually I try to sit down for at least an hour between when my day job stops and when I have to start worrying about dinner. Because I find I'm still, going from the day, my brain is still working. After dinner, a lot of times I'm like, oh, no, it's time for video games and going to bed. So my brain is just kind of done by then. So that's usually my most productive time, but it's really been sort of hit or miss lately, unfortunately.
So has work from home made it worse because you're there more?
Yeah, it's a little bit, I have like my work computer here and then my personal laptop here, and that sometimes it's hard to sort of make a break between the two. It's really easy to get distracted by one or the other. So yeah, it's been more of just trying to acclimate to a new normal, which has been hard, especially when we know this normal isn't going to be normal forever. So it's this weird kind of temporary, permanent thing that sort of puts everything sort of in limbo. So it's kind of made it hard to focus for me personally. But
All right. John.
Yeah, what was the question?
How much time you spend writing as opposed to other aspects, and a little bit about your routine.
Yeah. So in addition to in addition to 3 ongoing series, I currently have 3 works in progress that are not connected to any of my ongoing series. And I'm the lead editor on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 projects sitting on my desktop right now that I'm the lead editor on. I do all the layouts for every book that we produce. So everything passes through my hands at one level or another. And then I handle all of the things like uploads, ordering author copies, um, paying bills, paying royalties, which is about to get started because it's the end of the month, which is 60 days after the end of the quarter. So it's time to pay people. So the goal is a chapter in my primary work in progress every day. The cherry on top of the sundae is adding something to one of these unsold, unconnected works in progress. And then when I'm doing line edits or developmental edits on a project, my process for that is I take the project, I open it up in Word, I set it to double space, and then I look at how many pages it is. I divide that by 10, and that's my daily edit count. So that way, two work weeks, and I'm done with a full-length novel. If it's a novella, I try to do it in a week. I don't do lead edits on very many novellas anymore. I've managed to find people to take most of those. So today I finished up a book for Chris Jackson, and I finished it up early. That means I don't have to do any edits the rest of the week, so I can write more. For me, the fact that I have so many pieces and so many different things going on works well with my attention deficit disorder, because I'm only good for about 45 minutes to at most an hour 15 at a stretch. And then my mind wanders and I'm done. Teresa has been in meetings with me and seen it live. I've got limited focus, and I don't take any drugs for that. We're not going to go into anything I take for other things or recreationally, but so I'll focus, and it takes me about 45 minutes to do 1,000 words. So I break my writing up into chunks. It takes me about 45 minutes to edit 15 pages that need heavy edits, to do 30 pages that need light edits. So I break my day up into 45-minute chunks, and then I go play video games in between. I watch TV. I don't force myself to hit a particular schedule. I sleep about 4 hours at a clip, but I'll sleep 4 hours and then come back downstairs and do social media and other stuff. And then in the middle of the afternoon, I'll go take a nap for a couple hours, because you do still need sleep. So I don't have a real schedule. I did for the first couple of years that I was writing full time, even before we started Falstaff. And I tried to do the whole regimented thing, get up the same time as you got up when you went to your day job, and take a shower and put on your clothes just like you're going to an office. And I hated doing that shit when I had to go to an office. So the first time I could go 3 or 4 days without ever putting on real pants, score. Today was the first day I've moved my truck in 2 weeks. I haven't left the house in a couple of weeks. It's the second day in 2 weeks I've worn pants other than sweats and jogging pants. So yeah, it's a weird life, and it's gotten nothing but weirder over the past year. but my normal wasn't normal anyway. So
Have
it's
you noticed
just,
have you noticed an increase in your productivity by breaking it
oh
into those
God,
chunks?
no.
All right.
The breaking it into chunks does help, but the other part of that is everything of the world of the last 18 to 24 months has crushed my productivity. 2020 was by far it was the least released word counts I've done since 2012. I put out one novel and 3 novellas, maybe a novel and 4 novellas is all I released in 2020. And usually I'm good for 2 to 4 novels and 4 to 6 novellas in a year. So, yeah, I'm getting
Perfect.
back on track. This year looks like it's going to be 3 novel releases and at least 3, probably 4 novellas.
All right. All right. Marion, what about your writing routine?
Oh, I could say I write every day. The more accurate statement would be I go and sit in front of my computer every day. And I actually do get some kind of a word count almost every day. That's fiction. I also write a column for fantasyliterature.com, and I also do reviews for them. So some of the work is that. And I was going to sort of spark off something Sarah said about there are days when it's really inconsistent, but is it ever consistent though? I mean, I feel like I can have a week where I can have a spurt and I'll write 1,500 words in a couple hours for 3 or 4 days. But then very often the next day I'm really not going to be writing anything, because in that spurt where I had a lot of material and I moved things forward, I ran up against a speed bump, maybe in the plot or somebody's motivation, and I could plow forward and put words on the page, but that's usually the day when, I don't worry that much about it. I go for a walk, or I take that day to do laundry or something, because I really need to let my subconscious work through and go, well, here's where you need to go back and she needs to say this. And so, which makes me wonder about things like a daily word count, except as a motivation tool. I don't find the idea of a daily word count that helpful, because what matters is me getting the story advanced. The other thing is 2020 was a strange year in a lot of ways. And I really missed a thing I used to be able to do, which was go out to a coffee shop or a park or a friend's house and write. And I miss being able to do that. But I do have a friend, and we originally, this was kind of funny. We originally did Zoom meetings where we met over Zoom and wrote, set the timer for an hour and wrote, and then talked about what we were working on. And then something happened with her computer where it didn't support Zoom any longer. I think her camera went out or something. So now we do phone check-ins, and it really does help. It's not the same as sitting across the table with a nice toasty, coffee drink and being able to look around and see the different people and get sort of hits that maybe spark the creativity. But it's nice still having sort of that buddy system, even though it looks very different. So yeah, that's sort of how it goes. And I do find that there's nothing more motivational for getting word count done than having a contractual deadline. That's really handy. So helps a lot.
All right, perfect.
One thing I did want to add, Jason, is I don't write every day. I shoot for 5 days out of 7, but it may not be Monday through Friday. I didn't think I was going to write today because I went out and ran errands, but I ended up getting done quicker than I expected, and I got words done. But I don't write every day. At least 1 day a week, I try very hard to not do anything except the bare minimum of replying to emails and responding to social media pings. I try to take at least 1 day where I read, I mess around with my magic cards, I play yet more Borderlands 3. I look at whatever new table of magic items Sarah just put out. I still want those refillable salt and pepper shakers. So yeah, I don't write every day.
All right. So Sarah, let's jump back to the books. What's something that you found surprising with your story? That could be a twist you weren't expecting. It could be something you learned researching, or just something about yourself that you learned.
A side character that is begging for more attention in the next books, but I think that's probably pretty standard a lot of times. You know, you don't think you need this character and you're like, oh, I just need somebody for them to talk to over here, and then that character becomes incredibly interesting and begs your attention. So yeah, definitely.
All right. John?
It's a little tough with this because I'm 8 years and many stories deep in the Bubba universe, and we're in the middle of this fairly heavily plotted out 2-year arc. The interesting thing about this book was that it took me forever to find a title. It took me forever to find a title. And I rip off song titles. That's practically every book I've ever published. Almost all of them have been song titles. But I couldn't find the song. So finally, I took a look around and I was like, hey, you've got a giant fight in a church. Houses of the Holy. All right. But yeah, that was the weird little thing for this book, is couldn't find a title.
Marion?
Well, I just want to say that seems really funny, because when I was looking on the website and I saw the cover, I was like, Houses of the Holy, of course. I mean, it was like, it's the perfect title. But yeah, I guess that's how it goes. There's
Natanya Barron does such amazing work on my covers for the Bubba and Harker series.
Yeah, those are great, some great covers. Actually, all your covers are pretty damn good.
Thank you.
I had a character who was more fun to write than I thought she was going to be, and so that was fun. In my current work in progress, which is the third book in this series, I am very surprised at suddenly how interested I became in electricity, which does play a part in the book, because the Trevian's father provides light to the town by the energy that he harvests from captured fire elementals. And so that sounds very magical, but then it's like, but then all of the rules of an electrical grid, I'm not just saying this because of Texas, this really surprised me. All the rules of sort of an electrical grid and an electric production plant, I had to look at, and it was really interesting. And that was a complete surprise.
All right. Teresa?
Well, they tell you that, you know, you learn by making the mistakes yourself better than, you know, reading the rules that people tell you. And I learned that writing a series is a lot harder than it looks, because until Kaitlin, I had never written a series of stories. They were always standalones, because I come from the horror genre mostly. So those were always one and done. Either everybody dies, or they, you know, they survive, but they're maimed, and, you know, this is never going to happen again. So I breezed through the first one. The second one wasn't too bad. The third book I thought was really going to kill me, because it's really a lot more difficult to write a series and keep the holes as small as possible than it seems to. Really good authors with really good series make it look really easy, but it's really not.
Can I jump in on that just a second? That was an eye-opener for me too. That and I have a friend who's sitting down right now, and she's like all in the flesh of I'm writing a fantasy trilogy. And I'm like, let me tell you something. Figure out your entire arc, at least sketch it. Because stuff that you put in book 1 that you think is really cool and you think you're never going to touch again, now it is around your neck, and you can't pretend that you can hand wave it, but it's never good when the author hand waves it. It's, oh yeah, I know they said that didn't work, but there's this one time it really does. And yeah, anything you can do, even if you're not much of a plotter, anything you can do to sketch out where the story is going, it is going to help you so much.
I got very lucky, and when I got really super stuck, I think it was in book 3 or maybe it was the end of book 2, I went back and I just started flipping through the first one, and I was like, oh, there's this shiny thing I can use, and it's like I knew I needed it and I left it right there, so let me attack it.
It's
There
nice
is a scene. There's a scene in the very first Black Knight book that I published in 2010. And it's a throwaway scene of a cop in a police cruiser who just pulls up, and you see this cop take a photograph down from beneath his visor, look at it for a minute, sit there, tuck the photo away, and drive off. I had no damn idea what that was. That character came back in book 4 and lasted for 3 books. So yeah, sometimes you write yourself these little outs that you don't even know are outs. But one of my favorite stories about an author getting caught having to clean up after themselves, our friend AJ Hartley, who I adore and is one of the best writers I know, in his YA fantasy series Steeplejack, he had just finished book 2, and he and I were talking somewhere, and he was like, I learned the hard way that maps are really important in cities, because I had to go back partway through writing book 2 and draw a map so that all of these places would be in the right sections of the city, and so all of the streets would go to all of the right places. And I was like, bro, that's why I write urban fantasy, and I Google map that shit.
Yep.
Yep.
I have pins all over New Orleans.
Yeah,
I have eaten in the bar that Sarah wrote about in Weaver's Folly. They have the best turkey burger in Atlanta.
I was going to ask Teresa about that. Having New Orleans as the city, was that helpful or difficult? Because I know New Orleans can be interesting.
The answer, was it helpful or difficult? The answer is yes. It was helpful because, I mean, it's still a place that at the time that I was writing, the first couple of books I could actually go to. So I did, and I got to claim it as taxes. So I got to go and experience it. And one of the reasons that Kaitlin is from a different part of the country and goes to New Orleans is because when I got there, I realized there's no way I will ever see or experience New Orleans as a native or as someone who lives there. So she's always going to have that kind of transplant vibe. She's always going to have this sense of being an outsider looking in. And there will be things that she's able to adopt and pick up on her own, but it's always going to be a little weird and wonderful to her. And that is kind of what makes it fun. And it keeps me able to be respectful to the city without stepping on anybody's toes at the same time, because it's a fun place, it's a quirky place, and I know that without living there, I would never do it justice.
All right. So that'll do it for tonight. Let's go around again and tell everyone where they can find you on internet and how they can find your book. And we'll start again with you, John.
So you can find me on all forms of social media as @John Hartness. I suggest that everyone join my Facebook fan group, John G. Hartness Books, because I approve all of those, and I don't accept a whole lot of Facebook friend requests because there are a lot of people out there who are even crazier than me. So follow me on Twitter as @John Hartness. You can follow Falstaff Books on Twitter and Instagram, and we have a YouTube channel, and I live stream every couple of weeks on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. And I've started doing TikTok. So old white dude TikToking. Basically, I'm giving advice on this is the stupid crap that happened in Slush today. So you can
You're
find
welcome
that's
for me
the
ranting at you.
and that's on the Falstaff Books TikTok channel, whatever you call it. So yeah,
Did you
and
have
you can buy
a?
all
Okay.
you can buy all my stuff off the Falstaff Books website, audiobooks wherever audiobooks are sold.
And did you have a? I want to say a Kickstarter going on as well.
Yeah, I do. So we have an Indiegogo currently running to pre-order the audiobooks for Bubba 5.1, 5.2, and a short story collection called Shine Punk, which is Bubba's great-grandpappy Beauregard. And so for $15, you get 3 audiobooks, and you can add on things like paperbacks of one or all of the Bubba collections. And all of these audiobooks are already produced. I have the files for everything. So this isn't a crowdfunding. This is literally just a pre-order opportunity. And it's cheaper than they will be once they go out for sale individually. I expect they'll be about $7 a piece when they're out, and they're $5 a piece if you pre-order the bundle. So go to Indiegogo, look up Falstaff Books. There will probably be a link in the show notes for this because there are people with better organizational skills than me who do things like that. So yeah, that's a thing too.
All right. Marion.
You can find me on my blog, deedsandwords.com. You can find my reviews and my weekly column on fantasyliterature.com. And I'm on Twitter, Marion D _D. You can find my books right, and you can find Copper Road right now at Amazon. And John, I think Aluminum Leaves is one of the sale books on the website right now, right?
Not right now, but it will be up on sale again soon.
Okay.
That the first in series sale ended the end of January.
Oh, okay.
So I had to go back through and change the prices on like 40 books.
All right, Teresa, where can they find you?
The easiest way to find my books is actually to go to falstaffbooks.com, and that'll take you to all the places where you can buy them through the title catalog. I'm on social media. I have various handles, but the easiest way to find me is just to look up Teresa Glover and my face will pop up. And you can always find me here at ConTinual back and forth, whether behind the curtain or somewhere posting in the group.
All right, perfect. And finally, Sarah.
The best place to find me is probably on Twitter. My Twitter handle is a little complicated. It's Unfettered Muse, which hopefully will also go in the show notes because I don't want to spell it. And my website is unfetteredmuse.com. I have a Facebook page. I think it's Sarah Madsen Author is the best way to find that. I also have an Instagram, but I really don't post on it very much. If I do, it's probably pictures of my dog. And I think that's it social media wise for me. But yeah, I'm pretty active on Twitter. So if you want to know what's going on with me, that's the best place.
All right, perfect. And I want to thank all of you for joining us today. And I want to thank everyone for watching. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.